All right, man, peace. So, brothers, we've already covered at least a portion of this narrative from the R. Kelly / Orpheus angle. Now we're going to address it from the perspective of his nymphs, or at least for now his nymphs, that being Miss Azriel Cleary and Miss Joycelyn Savage. This is a very important component because we're going to cover from a couple of angles. The two-dimensional perspective will be once again us addressing that dynamic of a man having more than one woman. The three-dimensional perspective is going to be the role that they're playing in R. Kelly's life for now. And I stress for now because I don't believe that the dynamic or the relationship, the rapport per se, between R. Kelly and those two young ladies is going to last for much longer. I do think that there are going to be some outside forces that are going to put so much pressure on their relationship that it's going to fall apart in some way, shape, or form. And it wouldn't surprise me if we saw some type of catastrophe or tragedy occur where it comes to R. Kelly and those two young females. But once again, they represent nymphs, and nymphs in the Greco-Roman mythologies are basically sex goddesses. They're servants of the woodlands or the waters. They're counted as air spirits or water spirits who would have intercourse with a god or a demigod at his leisure or at his pleasure. And in the case of Orpheus, the nymphs who follow him around were known as Maenads. They also follow around Bacchus. They primarily follow around Bacchus. Now, the story of Bacchus and the story of Orpheus in certain versions coincide with one another. In other versions, they're two separate characters. But it's very clear that in certain ancient mystery school systems, they got the story jumbled up, so they would make them antagonists as opposed to different aspects of the same person. Either way, what it's meant to represent is that in the ancient world, Asar or Osiris was the world's first superstar or celebrity after the flood. He was able to galvanize mankind, the various nations of mankind, to view him as a savior figure. He taught them about music and agriculture and combat and how to domesticate animals, how to build homes and castles and battlements, so on and so forth. The martial arts, astronomy, astrology. At least his father taught mankind many of those educational aspects, and Nimrod taught mankind many of the other aspects. So that is why he's still venerated to this day in various forms, whether it be Bacchus or Adonis or Attis. And one of the pseudonyms of that Cush / Nimrod archetype or dynamic was Orpheus, that being the great musician, the great singer. He was also known in ancient Kemet as Gamut, G as in George, A-M-U-T, or Kamut, K as in kite, A-M-U-T. That was another name for Asar or Osiris. And what that name basically, what it connoted is that he was both the husband and the son to his wife / mother, that being Isis or Aset. Now, Gregory the Great, quote unquote Gregory the Great, who was one of the early Christian church popes or Catholic church popes, pardon me, he learned many of the chants of the followers of Asar or Osiris, and he brought them back to the Catholic Church, where they became known as Gregorian chants. Many of you brothers may be familiar with that. When Gregory the Great brought back those chants from Kemet, he taught them to many of the monks. So many of you cats, maybe if you went to a Catholic school, you may have heard monks do the Gregorian chant, or they have what they call, this is where we get the term running the gamut from, where you have singers who go through these 7 scales in music that actually comes from ancient Kemet and the musical theory of ancient Kemet and veneration of Asar, also known as Orpheus. Once again, he was the great songwriter, the great harp or lyre player. And as I stated in the previous video, he could bewitch animals, rocks, trees. That's what was stated of him. Now we know, once again, as I stated in the previous video, when the scriptures speak on the stones or the rocks or the trees or the beasts of the field, that's an analogy for the nations of the world. So when it says that Orpheus could play the lyre and he could entrance the rocks and the beasts of the field, it's talking about all nations, because that is who Asar ruled over. So that brings us down to today, where you have an R. Kelly figure who is just a pawn in the game. And they use many of these pawns in the entertainment industry to play out these rituals. Right now, they're playing out a Bacchanalian / Orphic ritual with R. Kelly. And I do believe that his career, or maybe even his life, is going to end in the same way that Orpheus' ended, with him being torn apart by the Maenads, who are his own female fans, his own nymphs, meaning his sex slaves, groupies per se. So anyway, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Women who live with R. Kelly are defending him and their relationship with him in the strongest terms. 21-year-old Azriel Clary and 23-year-old Joycelyn Savage told us they love Kelly, while their families claim he has brainwashed them.
In an interview you'll see only on CBS this morning, the two women told us there is nothing inappropriate about their arrangement with them.
And as we can see here, one is in the black, one is in the red. One has on all black, the other has on red, or I guess you could say blood orange, with the white t-shirt. As I tell you brothers all the time, the color combination of black, red, and white is for the Black Mass, or the god of witchcraft, that being Pan. Okay? R. Kelly is a venerator of the Baphomet.
With the 52-year-old singer. What is your relationship, both of you, with R. Kelly?
We're with him. That's our relationship.
We're with him. Yeah,
we
that's what
with
it
him,
is.
And we're in a relationship with him.
Right.
We just said it.
That chick, Azriel Clary, she bout it.
A very strong relationship as
Both
well.
of you?
Yes, most definitely.
You know, how do we say this without being inappropriate? Is this a three-way relationship, or do you each have a separate relationship with him?
Right, but why would that be inappropriate? I mean, other than if you view relationships through the prism of Western society, which basically tells females to go towards men that they quote unquote have a crush on, and once they no longer have a quote unquote crush on that man, to start to disintegrate their relationship. Or it tells men to carry on a relationship according to the mode of the woman and what makes her happy. That's why they have phrases in this society like happy wife, happy life. That's another way of saying you must please your goddess. If you don't please the goddess or the mother goddess archetype figure, you're not doing your job. There's really no way for a woman to remain happy. The woman's happiness comes from her yearning to make you happy. Your happiness comes from your yearning to make the Most High happy. That's it. And on the surface, there's nothing wrong with these two females being with R. Kelly, or with two or three females being with one man. There's nothing wrong with it as long as everyone is good with it. A lot of people will have problems with that. In the scriptures, a man can have more than one woman. Now, from a sensible perspective, should the average man in this society have more than one woman? Well, you should have as many women as you can deal with and are willing to deal with you within reason, understanding that you have to be an equal partner for all those women. But once again, when you utilize discernment, by the time you're able to evaluate how many females you're talking to that have the potential to be wife material versus how many that you're talking to that ain't shit, you're probably only going to end up with one woman anyway, bro. That's why I say a lot of people flip out when I say a man can have more than one woman. When I say that, all I mean is that the Most High does not have an issue with a man having more than one woman. The real issue among so-called black men is understanding the difference between a concubine and a wife material woman. That's the main problem that cats have. When it comes to the woman in this society, these women are all raised to have a concubine mindset. So that's why they riff whenever this topic comes up of a man having more than one woman, because that means what that would normally entail is that the woman is compliant to a man. They don't want women to be compliant to men. Gayle King is in her mid to late 60s. She's done. Okay? They basically have to do 5 hours worth of makeup and wardrobe to get her presentable for TV. They got to find the right wig. When Gayle puts on her wig in the morning, it's like the end of Revenge of the Sith when the helmet comes down on Darth Vader. Okay? So, of course, she's going to look at a couple of young females who actually have hope of being in a relationship and try to cast aspersions on it. Now, we know when we evaluate this situation from a three-dimensional perspective, R. Kelly is using MK programming techniques on these females, no doubt about it. He's using a lot of Luciferian principles on them, but I'm just saying from a basic perspective, there's nothing wrong with a man having two women who are willing to share that man, especially in these days where most men, to be honest with you, ain't too swift. A lot of them are pea brains. I'm just being real about it. A lot of cats might not like that, but, you know, brothers have to step their mental game up. And there are many problems out here. That's why there are so many single women, because, number one, the women are raised to be concubines and to believe that everything is supposed to go their way. and the men are raised to think and act like women. So you have a lot of females out here who are frustrated and talk about how, I want a man, but blah, blah, blah. A lot of them already have too much poisonous energy in their body to be good for a man. That's why you have cats like R. Kelly looking for females in their late teens, early 20s, because they haven't had all those toxic experiences with men yet. So he has a chance to mold them how he wants. And in a real society, a man does want to get with a woman when she's 19, 20, 21 years old, when she's at her peak when it comes to her physical, and assuming that she's been trained to be a wife to a man. In this society, everybody's dealing with everybody. You don't know what the hell's going on. But just to get back to the point once again, is there an issue or something wrong with a man having more than one woman? No, there is not. And I'm sure that certain people are going to dislike that. I don't really give a shit. It is what it is.
How does this work?
Well, both
I'm
of
curious.
those. Yeah,
Both
we both
of
have
those?
our individual relationships with him, and we all are family all together. We have our moments where we sit and watch movies all together. We go to amusement parks all together.
I'm not talking about Azrael going.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Good for you, Azrael. I just don't think this shit is going to last, but, good for you.
Going to movies and sitting watching, going to parks. I'm talking about, is it a three-way sexual relationship?
That's what you were getting to, Gail King. Because you're the real freak. Like I said, see, a lot of these older women, they the real freaks. That's why they mad at R. Kelly. Because they want R. Kelly because he's 52. They want him to want a 52-year-old woman. If R. Kelly can get him a 20-year-old chick who's young and, in shape, fit, so on and so forth, has a sharp mind, is willing to listen to him, there's nothing wrong with that. The issue here, though, is that R. Kelly is utilizing MK programming techniques. That's my problem, and that's what I see. But from face value, or at face value, is there an issue with him having these two ladies? No, there is not. No, there is not.
Truly, well, first of all, I'm not here to talk about my personal life.
Good for you. Let me rewind this back a little bit.
Okay. We say this without being inappropriate. Is this a three-way relationship, or do you each have a separate relationship with him? How does this work?
Well, both
I'm curious.
of those. Yeah,
Both
we both
of
have
those?
our individual relationships with him, and we all are family all together. We have our moments where we sit and watch movies all together. We go to amusement parks all together.
I'm not talking about Azrael going to movies and sitting watching, going to parks. I'm talking about, is it a three-way sexual relationship?
Sexually, well, first
between
of all,
the
I'm not
three of you?
here to talk about my personal life,
Okay.
and I would never share with no one what I do in or outside of the bedroom.
Good for you.
And as a woman, I'm sure you would not either.
Unfortunately for you, though, what y'all doing in the bedroom probably been on tape already, so.
Not either. Yes.
No, I wouldn't, but
Okay, then.
But,
Well, I mean, that's not even a real issue. Gail can't share what she did in the bedroom because ain't nobody else there. I mean, Gail bedroom like the Mojave Desert, just dry and nothing but cactus in there.
So,
no,
yeah,
no, you're
next
right.
question.
No, you're right. I would not, but this is a very different circumstance.
It's
And
not
I
a
think
different
it's a fair
circumstance. There are
question.
people all over the world who have multiple girlfriends.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good for you. But you know what the real issue is, once again, and I've covered this in other videos, misery loves company. A lot of these females know they're going to die by their damn self. It's just going to be them and their vibrator in their casket. And they're trying to make sure that if they see any other females who are actually willing to share men that they're happy with, why are you doing that? They got to demonize them. Why are you doing that for? You don't feel wrong about that? You should be sitting at home by yourself in the living room, watching reality TV, cursing at the screen, and trying to figure out what new piece of fake hair you want to have sewn into your head on Friday afternoon or Saturday afternoon. That's the life that all black women and women, period, are supposed to be living. Because don't get it twisted. These white women and women of other races, they getting fake hair sewn into their damn scalp too. All these broads been smitten. None of them got no goddamn hair anymore. They all walk around looking like Professor X and damn Lou Gossett Jr.
Girlfriends. It's no different.
Do both of you all believe you're in love with him?
Let me rewind this back again one more time.
Yes.
Documented.
With him. Right. Just said it. A very strong relationship as
Both
well.
of you?
Yes, most definitely.
You know, how do we say this without being inappropriate? Is this a three-way relationship, or do you each have a separate relationship with him? How does this work?
Well, Gail, what's the relationship dynamic with your dildo and your vibrator? What, do you look at the dildo and you say you get Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday, and the vibrator gets Monday, Wednesday, and Friday? Like, how does that go? And who gets Saturday night?
Oh, both of those. Yeah, we both have our individual relationships with him, and we all are family all together. We have our moments where we sit and watch movies all together. We go to amusement parks all together.
I'm not talking about Azrael going to movies.
Azrael, what she wants is she wants you to be on Facebook dating a new nigga every 4 months so that you can end up 30 years old bitter talking about there's no good men. Well, I mean, I really do. I wish that this relationship was healthy and on the up and up. I hate having to say the things that I'm saying right now because I love the fact that I could see a so-called black man with two nice-looking young females, and they seem to be quote-unquote happy. Unfortunately, I believe that the happiness is based on programming techniques because they both probably were molested as children. Wouldn't surprise me at all. And I do suspect that this convention is not going to last long. I do suspect that both of them are going to be pulled away from R. Kelly and whatever control he presumably has over them, and then they're going to join the chorus line, the group of irate Maenads who are intent on ripping him to shreds. That's what I believe. Once again, when you look up the story of the Maenads, they were the followers of Bacchus. They were the worshippers of Bacchus, the first superstar of the earth. Once again, the Bacchus was bisexual. He also had transgender qualities. That's why you see that in the music industry. You see so many of the superstars in the music industry that seem to be sexually nebulous, whether it be Michael Jackson, Prince, etc. And they have Maenads or groupies who just pass out crying, ready to kill themselves. When you research the Maenads, they would work themselves up to such a fervor. They could literally pull trees out of the ground. They would gather around bulls and tear the bull apart with their bare hands. Remember, the bull was one of the symbols for Bacchus, as well as for Asar, known as the Apis bull, right? Or Marduk. That's what the bull symbolized. The bull symbolized Asar and Bacchus, because Bacchus and Asar are the same entity. They just have different names in different locations. They will pull the bull apart with their bare hands and eat the flesh raw. Because remember, Asar was chopped up into various pieces. That's why I state, and the Bacchanalian mysteries, or the Osirian mysteries, meaning for Osiris, part of that is cannibalism. Okay? It's cannibalism. It was a practice known as omophagia, I believe it was called, or omophagia. You brothers could look it up, but I believe it's spelled Omophagia. Okay? And the process of pulling the bull apart, I believe, was called sparagmos. But once again, you brothers look it up. I think that's spelled Sparagmos. They would literally tear the bull apart with their bare hands. Women, they would tear the bull apart with their bare hands and then eat the flesh raw. Okay? Remember, the point of cannibalism is to make you feel like you're at one with the entity that you worship. That's why I always state fandom is extremely dangerous. And in the same way that the Maenads in the ancient world had super strength, you ever see some of this footage of like when the Beatles were getting chased after, or Elvis? Those little young girls, they could pick up cars and tear down fences and shit. That's why the scriptures say what? There's no new thing under the sun. Okay? And this is a ritual. This is a some type of rite of passage where they're trying to utilize R. Kelly as a sacrificial lamb to push forward their agenda to promote the mother goddess over Bacchus.
And sitting watching, going to parks. I'm talking about, is it a three-way sexual relationship?
Sexually? Well, first of all, I'm not here to talk about my personal life. Okay. And I would never share with no one what I do in or outside of the bedroom. And as a woman, I'm sure you would not either.
Yes. No, I would.
Once again, Gail can't share shit, even if she wanted to. What's she gonna share? I remember I got some good dick back in 1983. Like, I mean, come on. Gail ain't fucking nobody. Give me a break.
I wouldn't, but
okay then. Next right. Question.
Yeah, keep it moving. Let's go. Next.
Question.
And that's so distasteful. That shows you what little regard they actually have for young females. Once again, they push these super liberal ideologies, and if you do not embrace them, they come at you like fascists. And they show you with many of their follow-up statements or questions what little intellect they have and what little regard they have for other people.
No, you're right. I would not, but this is a very different circumstance.
It's not a different circumstance. There are people all over the world who have multiple girlfriends.
Absolutely, and multiple wives. What she's referring to are other cultures. And what you'll find in those other cultures is that they're not dropping dead at 55 years old like the so-called black man is from stress. That's what you'll see. They're over in parts of the world, what they call quote-unquote third world countries, led by people of color that have not been westernized yet. They have more than one woman because they're not trying to push this gender-bending agenda. That's why everybody here is so confused. Everybody's depressed. They teach the men to be more feminine. They teach the women to be more masculine. And everybody's unhappy.
It's no different.
Do both of you all believe you're in love with him?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brothers, that's how you know this is not going to last. Okay? They both said that they're both in love with him. That's how you know this is not going to last.
Yes, absolutely. Of course.
Should your parents be concerned?
No.
Why?
The reason why they shouldn't be concerned is because they're the ones who gave them to R. Kelly.
Well, my parents knew where I've always been. 4 years they have known. They know that I've been well taken care of.
They never thought you were missing, Azriel. They just were wondering if you were okay.
Well, my parents have actually came to Chicago and seen me a few times. I've talked to them. They stopped answering my calls.
You know what they say? They say that you were brainwashed. I talked to your dad last night. He says, my daughter is brainwashed, and he's very concerned. He said he was here 2 days ago, and you wouldn't even look him in the eye.
Okay, I wouldn't look him in the eye because he's a liar, and he's a manipulative liar.
I'll tell you why they're concerned, Azriel, because they say she's 17. We found text messages that indicated that she was having sex with R. Kelly when she was 17. Is that true?
No, that is a lie.
And beyond that, I'm pretty sure, as I've stated also in other videos pertaining to this issue, that she was probably having sex with the previous boyfriend that led her or inspired her to want to commit suicide. They're saying this to make waves in the media. Oh, she was having sex with R. Kelly. So is the issue that she was having sex, or was it the age of the penis that was going inside of her? If she was having sex with a 16-year-old or 17-year-old boy and she was 17, would it be okay, or would that also be wrong?
That is a lie. I was not having sex with him at 17.
Why would they want to lie about you, their daughter?
Okay, so when I first met Robert, my parents told me to lie about my age. So when I met him, he thought that I was 18. On top of that, when I was 17, my parents were actually making me, trying to get me to take photos with him, take sexual videos with him, all kinds of stuff.
Wait. Your parents encouraged you to do sexual videos with R. Kelly?
Yes. And they said because if they ever have to blackmail him, what they're trying to do now, they can use it against him, which is...
Very interesting. Let me say this, brothers. If she's lying, she deserves an Academy Award because she delivers her lines very well if she's lying. And I don't think that she's lying. I think that her parents tried to pimp her into the industry, as most parents of child stars do, and it blew up in their face.
Which is exactly what they're doing.
Joycelyn, I see you nodding a lot with what she's saying. Why are you nodding in agreement with what she's saying?
Because she agrees. What type of stupid-ass question is that?
Because everything that she's saying is true. Our parents are basically out here just to get money. And
your parents, you're saying the same as saying...
Well, both of our parents are basically out here and trying to get money and scam because they didn't agree on what happened, with music or wherever it could be, and they're just very upset.
This is the first time hearing, to be honest with you, that your parents are trying to get money from R. Kelly.
Okay.
Because your father told a very different story to me last night.
Yeah, he's the manipulative. He's very manipulative, so he's the one you need to watch out for. But my dad and my mom, they started to send threats to both me and him. They said, I'll put all your naked pictures all over the world. I'm going to ruin you. I'm going to ruin him. If he doesn't send $20,000 to this bank account by Monday, I'm going to put everything out there and then $10,000 after that.
That's a hell of a claim. One would assume that if that request or that demand was actually made, that, R. Kelly would have the text in his phone or copy of the email or maybe even the voice message or the voicemail message. One would assume that would be the case if what she's saying is true.
You're trying to solicit me like I'm some hoe. I'm not. I'm your child.
Exactly.
Yeah, you sound very angry with your parents. You sound very angry.
Well, I'm not quite sure if she sounds angry as much as resentful. That's why I state that, people have to understand this. And this is why I like to cover the mind control angle and the Luciferian angle, because in order for R. Kelly or any other programmer to be able to take on another asset, they already have to see signs that these people can be manipulated. And they'll show signs when they were molested as children. If parents are so eager to pimp out their children to the industry, many times it's because the child was being molested by someone in the family, or who knows what the hell was going on from when they were, small children or even infants.
And very pained. Tell me, Azrael, why you're crying. Tell me.
I'm crying because you guys don't know the truth. You guys are believing some facade that our parents are saying. This is all lies for money. And if you can't see that, you're ignorant and you're stupid as because you want to be. All to possess the world we live in. Negativity sells.
I agree with that. Negativity definitely sells. But once again, it is time to bring down Orpheus. It's time for Orpheus to go. He's already went through his Eurydice ritual involving Aaliyah, and now he's turned against the overall powers that be. And now it's time to have the Maenads turn against him and tear him apart. So the Maenads and the beasts of the field are going to tear R. Kelly apart. I'm not quite sure he's going to make it out of this one. We'll know if these two females try to turn against him. If you hear some storyline about how they try to turn against him and it's a tragedy in Chicago, and I'm going to leave it at that, don't be surprised.
Gossip is what sells. Rumors are what sells.
Exactly.
But Jocelyn and Azrael, this is more than gossip. This is more than just rumors. These are decades of allegations against Robert Kelly.
We're not here to talk about decades. We're here to talk about what our parents are doing right now.
Right.
And what they're doing right now is all for money.
Right.
Now, both sets of parents deny ever asking Kelly for money or receiving money from him. As I watched as I was talking to them.
Once again, either they're telling the truth or that's some of the great acting that I've seen in a while. If they are acting, and Robert prompted them to say that, his hold over them psychologically is as strong as anyone that I've seen. So he's a very, very powerful wizard in the entertainment industry. But we'll be going through that in some of these epilogues.
To them, because I had talked to the father. There are two very different stories. I'm sure Mr. Clary, if he watches this morning, his head will explode because he has a very different version.
Well, it's going to be cleared up eventually because all those allegations are going to have to be proven in court.
Of what these young women are saying. And his team had told us that R. Kelly would not be in the room. After the interview started, he was around the corner behind them. They couldn't see him. But at points during the conversation, he would cough very loudly like that. So
R. Kelly hiding out around the corner talking about, keep our business on the down low, down low. Keep it on.
So they were aware that he was there.
He wanted them to know that he tried to stop the interview backstage a couple times.
Yeah, a couple of times. Laz, who was taking those amazing photos that you've seen, is my makeup artist, who's also a very good photographer, as you also see. R. Kelly came up to him and said, should I stop this interview? Should I stop this interview? He never did. So the girls at some point were certainly aware that he was there. And I just wanted to say, as a mother, get your things, let's go. You are 21, you are 23, and...
In other words, both grown. So why are you getting involved for?
And he is 52 years old. And I know many people believe age is just a number.
Well, that was a name for one of Aaliyah's albums, right?
When you're looking at these young women, they parrot a lot of what he is saying.
Well, Gayle King, I have news for you. And right now I'm speaking just from a two-dimensional perspective. But most couples start to parrot what each other says after a while, if they're close enough. If you have two friends who are close enough, or brothers or sisters or what have you who are close enough, they start to parrot what each other says. That's oftentimes an offshoot of living within close proximity of one another. But I will say this, it's very obvious that R. Kelly has them under some form of mind control. You should know that, Gayle King, because you're under mind control your damn self. You're an asset for the mainstream media. You've been twin programmed with your homegirl, quote unquote homegirl, Oprah Winfrey, aka Harpo. Right? So you would know.
It's ugly to watch, but abuse is ugly.
Well, shit, y'all are ugly to watch, but I still use y'all segments.
Is ugly. And the manipulation that continues, and the powerlessness and trying to feel powerful, and the blame. It's a bad situation.
Wait a minute. Isn't the Me Too movement about you females trying to feel powerful? When you come to work every morning and they put 5 layers of makeup on the both of y'all, isn't that about making y'all feel powerful? I mean, I understand what you're getting at with R. Kelly, but once again, there's so much hypocrisy going on here. I mean, give me a break.
I think one day, years from now, everybody will look back.
Keep in mind, Norah O'Donnell is the same person, and I did a video on this on the RFID chip implementation. She's the same person who said that she would get the chip, and that other people should get it as well. This is back when Charlie Rose was on the show. Gayle King was the only person who was quizzical about why they would want to get the chip, because she said that she would not want to get the chip. I stated it's very obvious that the reason why Norah O'Donnell and Charlie Rose are saying that they would get the chip is because they already have it. Norah O'Donnell is another MK Ultra newswoman, trained ever since she was young. She grew up on an army base or military base in South Korea. So she was prepped from young to do what she's doing right now, as was Gayle King.
Look back on this and just say it's very sad, very tawdry, and just very, very ugly.
I hope that what comes of this is that people go to the websites, and we should post them too, that his ex-wife talked about, where you can look at the signs of whether you're in an abusive relationship or not, because you'll find...
Yeah, you know what? Some men need to go to that website too and see if some of y'all are in abusive relationships. Because some of y'all dudes out there getting screamed on, getting your ass whooped every night as soon as you get home. A lot of y'all, as soon as y'all walk in the door, it's a damn high-heel shoe flying at your head.
You'll find out, hey, I'm in 8 of these 10, and then you realize I need help.
Yeah, now they do not think they're being abused or manipulated or brainwashed. But again, they're 21 and 23.
Right, but what does that even mean? They're 21 and 23. Basically what you're saying, Gayle King, and this is what I've told you brothers about in the past when it comes to many of these young women. They're told by older women like Gayle King to not get too serious in relationships when they're young, to go out and play the field and have fun and loosen up. Because Gayle King is still bitter that she wasn't a good enough wife to keep her man back 35 years ago when she walked in and found him screwing some other woman. And I'm being dead ass serious about that. She's still mad about that shit. So what a lot of these females do is they tell their daughters or their granddaughters, take your time in relationships. Don't rush into anything. You're 21 years old. Meanwhile, she could have the man of her life, the man of her dreams at 20. But they screw it up because they want to go play the field. Then they end up 32 years old, mad at the world. Single as a damn $1 bill. Okay, so now we're going to pick up with R. Kelly being questioned about his alleged promise to make sure that Azriel Clary and Jocelyn Savage would become, top singers in the industry.
That's right. Lots of news to get to this morning. Singer R. Kelly is back in jail this morning for not paying his child support bills. He was arrested yesterday in Chicago after he failed to pay more.
Brothers, child support now? Child support is like child support is like tax evasion. Like back in the day when they couldn't get mobsters, they would always get them on tax evasion. Now they just if you have children by these women, if they want to get you on something, they just get you on the child support, man. That's the new tax evasion.
More than $161,000 he allegedly owes. Now that happened just hours after Gayle's explosive interview with him first aired. Kelly also faces 10 charges of aggravated criminal sexual abuse. Court documents allege 3 of his 4 accusers were underage at the time. Kelly has pleaded not guilty.
The 2 women that Kelly lives with are Azriel Clary and Jocelyn Savage. They were in court as he was arraigned on those charges last week. Their parents say they believe the singer has brainwashed them. We asked R. Kelly about allegations that he lured these young women with promises of helping their singing careers. Now, Kelly claims it was Savage's mother who pushed him on the issue.
She started promoting that Jocelyn could sing, and she was a singer, and she's trying to be a singer, and wanted me to produce her or whatever. I said, well, let her sing. She sang, and she couldn't sing.
But how does it go from she can't sing, you don't think she has a talent that you like, but she ends up being with you?
Well, Gayle King, how does that normally happen? What type of stupid-ass question is this? Well, just because she can't sing, why did you end up dating her? Because she looked good. I mean, what type of dumbass questions are these?
Spending time with you, living with you.
Talent. When I saw her on stage, nothing about her told me she sing. I don't have, I can't say, oh, that girl sing. It's because she was beautiful.
Thank you, sir. R. Kelly still think like a man. He got, of course, the man got his issues, but they don't like men getting on TV and saying things like that. He's supposed to say, I got with her because, she was so conscious about the environment.
We then interviewed Azriel Clary and Joycelyn Savage with R. Kelly, who was standing nearby, even though his team had told us he would not be in the room. He entered after the interview.
It's his house. He can stand wherever the hell he want to stand.
After the interview began, they told us that their parents are just looking for money, which both sets of parents deny. Do either of you want to sing?
No.
None of you have any singing ambitions?
No.
Other than in the shower, who cares? Brothers, and a lot of y'all in my age range, you might remember this, understand this. Remember back in like the early to mid 2000s? Every time you met a chick, she always claimed that she wanted to be on either America's Next Top Model or American Idol. Every chick that you met in your 20s in that era, in the 2000s, every chick wanted to be on America's Next Top Model or American Idol. They try to make these females believe that something's wrong with them when they're not trying to be a celebrity or they're not trying to work in corporate America. Not even addressing the mind control aspect. There are many females who just love a man and want to be at home with that man. And if that's what they want to do, what's wrong with that? Let them live their life. Oh, well, don't you want to be more than just a housewife? Yeah, they should want to be miserable like your ass. Running to work for 10 hours a day, 11 hours a day, then stopping off at the pharmacy and picking up your antidepressants, then going home and rolling up a blunt and washing it down with about 5 glasses of wine, right? And then finger popping yourself to sleep. Get the hell out of here.
No. That's another lie.
Yeah.
That's another lie.
Yeah.
Trust me. No.
Lies.
We did
I
not
did
want
hear
to
that
sing.
you wanted to sing,
No,
that you
I
wanted
did
to
not.
sing. So
Let me tell you something about singing, actually.
Okay.
Before I even met R. Kelly, I told my parents I did not want to sing. My parents made singing like a job for me. So it's not something I wanted to do.
Once again, she's providing some insight to confirm, in my view, that they were trying to prep her to be a sex slave in the industry. Who knows? Maybe someone approached them and let them know that if you train your daughter, this is how you're going to have to train her. And one of the main ways to train Monarch assets is through sexual ritual abuse. Something's definitely going on, particularly with her right there, Azriel Clary. And I'd be willing to bet that if Gayle King were to ask her the right questions, especially pertaining to was she molested as a child by a family member or a family friend or an acquaintance or what have you, that she would say yes.
Not only that, I even tried to kill myself because I did not want to sing, as a cry out for help, to tell them this is not what I want to do with my life. This is not how I want to spend my life.
Yeah, your father told me that you tried to take your life and that the only thing that made you happy was singing.
No.
And that's why he became involved with R. Kelly to help you.
No.
Neither one of you want to sing. What?
Let me say this also. When we look at the history of female singers in the music industry, 95% of them are depressed, drug addicts, alcoholics. I mean, if you go down the list of all the top female singers in the music industry from 1900 all the way to 2019, I guarantee you well over 90% of them are degenerates and have some type of psychological issue where they descended into drug abuse or alcohol abuse or hoeing.
What do you want to do in terms of a job or career? Are you happy just doing what you're doing?
Honestly, I'm happy doing what I'm doing. I haven't figured out what I want to do with my life, but I know when that time comes, we know Rob is going to support us regardless.
Right.
In other words, Robert Kelly's taking care of y'all. All y'all gotta do is what he says. Y'all give up the ass when he wants. When he wants to do freaky shit, y'all do it. In return, he sends y'all out on shopping sprees, and y'all just chill out for the rest of the day, and that's the life that you like living.
Right. Most definitely. He's our full support, and we're his full support. And all we need is each other.
Sharika Duncan is outside the Cook County Jail in Chicago, where R. Kelly is in custody, with the response.
Sharika Duncan, a.k.a. Peter Pan.
From the Clary and the Savage families. Sharika, good morning. Good morning. Azriel and Joycelyn's parents both say that they never received any money from R. Kelly. And as you just heard,
Yeah, that's why they're mad.
heard in that clip, Azriel says that she actually tried to attempt suicide because of her parents pressuring her to sing. Well, CBS News reviewed medical records, and according to those medical records, Azriel told doctors at the time that the suicide attempt was triggered by issues with her then boyfriend.
Allegedly. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Maybe that's what she said at the time because she was not ready to admit to herself and to her parents that she no longer wanted to sing. Or maybe those records were doctored to make her look crazy.
She told them music helped calm her down. And in the Lifetime docuseries Surviving R. Kelly, Clary's parents say it was Azriel who was pushing to become a famous singer and work with Kelly. They claim they told Azriel she could not be alone with Kelly if she worked with him.
So Azriel Clary wanted to sing. Her parents sent her to R. Kelly, but told her, you cannot be alone with R. Kelly. Does that make sense? That a 17-year-old is going to have the ability to tell R. Kelly, I want to use your studio, but I cannot be here with you alone. Who the hell is she to dictate something to R. Kelly? Nothing about that story makes sense whatsoever. So I'm inclined to believe Azriel Clary.
I didn't think it was a good fit. I didn't want to.
Hey, brothers, did you see that? Let me wind this back for a moment.
I didn't think.
Right here. This is a theme that you'll see very commonly in the music industry. That's the artist in predominantly black attire and the background being red. Or maybe not even wearing black attire, but the background being red. The background being red is symbolic of transformation, of rebirth. They're a witch in the industry. They've been reborn or recreated as a witch in the industry. That's a theme that I'll probably be touching on in one of these epilogues. But this is very, very common, especially with R. Kelly.
I think it was a good fit. I didn't want to have any part of it. But Azriel actually pressed us. She made her little threats about if we didn't, let her do this, what she would do.
At a news conference yesterday.
Brothers, no disrespect. I can tell that this cat here, the father, Savage, the father, he has no control over his daughters whatsoever. Because not to be judgmental, the other daughter right there, she appears to be, I'm not saying that she is, but she appears to be a girl about town, to put it mildly. Or she's a girl about town in training. She's on TV. I don't know how old she is. I believe that the older one, Jocelyn, whatever her name is 23. This one right here is probably about 17 or 18 years old with two big ass fake eyelashes on her eyes. What type of energy are you trying to emit with that look? That's what tells me that, number one, either this person here, the father, has no control over his household, which is very common today. The women run the house today. That's why so many of these black boys and young black men are so confused and so angry, because there's no masculine energy in the house. The women run the house. Or number two, who knows? He might be involved in the breaking down of his daughter's psyches through whatever means. I'm not going to put it out there directly, but I think that you brothers know what I'm implying. Once again, when you see certain MK assets, what they call sex kittens, normally what makes them so pliable for new handlers is that they're accustomed to getting treated a certain way by their previous handler, who's usually their father, i.e. Beyonce or Brandy, Aaliyah, etc. Right? Their fathers or their uncles or some authority figure in their life early on.
Joycelyn Savage's parents said they had proof it was Kelly who arranged for Joycelyn to meet him. They said they were disturbed by his interview.
What I saw on TV this morning about his way he acted when he got upset, I can only imagine what he does behind closed doors.
Yeah, I bet you do imagine what he does behind closed doors. I bet you do. And I bet you wish that you was there too. I noticed that she has on all black also.
I sit there and I want to not just pray for my daughter, but pray for Mr. Kelly to get some type of healing.
Now, about 30 minutes after the...
Brothers, I'm not quite sure if you noticed this, but if you're paying very close attention, you might see the, how often you see many of these females in these segments that have on the all black, and they have a necklace on with a heart pendant. The heart is symbolic for the Bacchus. Right? Bacchus was torn apart by the Maenads, and all that was left was his heart. Eventually, he was reborn. Now, in Kemet, how they tell the story is that Ra was destroyed, and then he was brought back as Heru. And the symbol for Heru was the heart, right? As the boy, it was the heart. That's where we get the entity known as Cupid from. Okay? The term heart is synonymous with Cush, or as he was known in Babylon, Bel. Okay? B-E-L. For you brothers who read the scriptures, you'll know about Bel the Confounder. He was also known as Nebo. Right? The term Nebo means to prophesy, right? Like a prophet, to divine.
After the news conference, Joycelyn contacted her family for the first time in 2 years. She called their lawyer's office and said that...
Now, I'm not necessarily saying that her mother is involved in some way as a handler, but it would not shock me at all. Wouldn't shock me at all if both her father and mother installed certain altars within her from childhood, and they're doing that to their other daughters as well, trying to make sure that they can catch on in the industry. It happens all the time.
That she is happy. Now, a manager for R. Kelly said that he would facilitate an in-person reunion for the Savages as early as next week. Joycelyn's parents also said, though, that they want a mental health expert to be with them. Bianna?
Thank you, Jerika. Can I say something to Jerika? Jerika, I'm glad you pointed out about the medical records, because Mr. Clary, Azriel's father, told me the exact same thing. The reason why she committed suicide, that she tried to commit suicide, tried to take her own life, was because she had a very messy breakup with her boyfriend. So I'm glad that you have documentation that actually backs up what he is saying.
Well, once again, that could be the case. Or it could be that was just what Azriel said at the time, because she did not want to hurt her parents' feelings, or she did not want to move away from that form of a possible career. Or it could be that, once again, that the documents were doctored, to put it mildly. Wouldn't shock me either way.
Bang. Yes. Thank you, Jerika.
I mean, it's a sad story, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Gayle King also wearing the necklace with the heart symbol on there, as she was during that interview.
All the way around.
Yes.
And it's so complicated, and there's so many layers.
Yes, I agree, Sharika Duncan, aka Peter Pan. This is a very complicated issue, and there are a lot of layers, but none of those layers will be peeled back by you. None of them. Okay, so now, brothers, this is going to be the epilogue for the R. Kelly Can a Man Have More Than One Woman video. And as I've stated in the video already, we're going to approach this topic from two different perspectives, from two different wavelengths. Why is that? Because from a two-dimensional perspective, yes, a man can have more than one woman, but you have to be very cognizant of the type of woman that you're dealing with. Are you dealing with a wife material woman or a concubine level woman? If you're dealing with a wife material woman, then you have to be able to discern whether or not you want to jeopardize the relationship that you have with that lady over another piece of ass. And if you're fortunate enough to actually have more than one woman that is of a wife level, that's another decision that you're going to have to make. But for the most part, brothers, let's be for real. You're going to be very fortunate if you can even get one wife material woman in this society. So for the most part, you're going to have to come to terms with the fact that that woman might not want you to have another woman, and you're going to have to weigh her value in the balance. You're going to have to understand that it will probably be more important to maintain your rapport with her than to go out and just get some scattered ass out here. But just to get back to the point, on a higher level or from a higher wavelength, when we evaluate the R. Kelly situation, once again, R. Kelly is an MK programmer / handler. He is proverbial Dionysus or Orpheus or Pan of the entertainment industry, of the music world. Therefore, he's able to get many people to follow behind him, especially females. And that concept has a resonance all the way back to the time of biblical Nimrod, who we call in the conventional quote-unquote pagan mythologies Osiris. Osiris was known to the ancient Greeks as Bacchus, okay? In the same way that Heru was known to the ancient Greeks as Apollo. Why am I bringing all of this up? Because Bacchus or Osiris was the first great celebrity or superstar after the flood. What that means is that he also had an entourage. In the same way that celebrities have entourages today, celebrities have groupies today. In the ancient world, they were known as the Maenads. Celebrities also have male groupies. Back in the day, they called them roadies or road dogs. Dudes who just hung around celebrities hoping to get their leftovers. That goes back to the ancient world as well. Bacchus had those dudes in his circle. They were known as satyrs or satyrs, spelled S-A-T-Y-R-S. So we're just going to go through some concepts to see how much the energy around the celebrity goes all the way back to the ancient world. As we can see here, there are two depictions on the right. That is Bacchus, or at least the Caucasian version of Bacchus, because the original Bacchus was a so-called black man. Once again, the name Bacchus literally means the son of Cush. Okay? That's what the name means. But, you know, that's a whole other video for another day. On the left, you have a Caucasian version of the goddess Sishat, the Kemetic goddess Sishat, who also depicted herself covered in the leopard print. Why is that? Because she was the quote-unquote goddess of wisdom. She was meant to be the female counterpart of Asar or Osiris. And thereby she's the female counterpart of the Bacchus here. The name for the goddess of wisdom being Athena or Minerva. Point being is this, brothers. There's nothing new under the sun. Okay? In the ancient world, the Maenads of Bacchus will go into a frenzy. Go back and look at some of the footage of how the female fans of the Beatles would conduct themselves, or the female fans of the Jackson 5. They literally had super strength. They could tip over buses, turn over cars, tear down gates and doors, things of that nature. In the same way, the ancient Maenads were known to be able to tear apart a bull with their bare hands. They could lift a tree out of the ground with their bare hands. They would work themselves up into such a frenzy. They were known as the Maenads of Bacchus, and they also were the ones who killed Orpheus. That's why I state that the entertainment industry and the media are trying to build up R. Kelly's fans to turn against him and destroy him. This is another depiction of the ancient Maenads. Once again, they always wore the leopard print. And that is why today, one of the triggers or one of the control mechanisms for the MK sex slaves is the leopard print that goes all the way back to the ancient world. As we can see by her attire, she's holding the small leopard in her hand. She also has what's known as the thyrsus, spelled T-H-Y-R-S-U-S, if I remember correctly. That was another symbol of the Bacchus. And around her head is the serpent, to denote what? That she is someone of great wisdom. She's a priestess of the Bacchus. That's why even if you look up the quote-unquote goddess Sishat, it tells you that she's wearing the garment or the garb of a priest of Asar. And you know who played Sishat in a very recent film? I think that I brought this out in the video that I did. In the film The Black Panther, his sister played Sishat in that film. She was the goddess of wisdom and invention, so on and so forth. Now, brothers, right here is a depiction that cats should be relatively familiar with. That being one of the members of the entourage of a celebrity trying to engage in sexual intercourse with one of the fans or one of the groupies of that celebrity. The male is a satyr, spelled S-A-T-Y-R. And you see he has the horse's tail. Sometimes they were depicted with the legs of a goat or with the tail of a horse. Per se, they were woodland entities. And they would have sex with the Maenads. The Maenads were also known as nymphs. Spelled N as in Nancy, Y, M as in Michael, P as in Peter, H as in Harry, S as in Sam. That's where we get the term nymphomaniac from. When you call a woman a nymph or a nympho, what are you saying? You're saying that she cannot control her sexual urges. She goes above and beyond to have sex with any and everyone. That's what the Maenads were for. Once again, there is nothing new under the sun. Now here's another depiction of a Maenad and a satyr who are about to engage in intercourse. And brothers, let me say this. These depictions are all paint overs. Okay? What do I mean by that? That means that the archaeologists dug up many of these artifacts and they had professional artists paint over what was originally depicted to make the art look more Caucasoid or Caucasian or what have you. Because the ancient Greeks were a people of color. The original people of the Peloponnesus or what have you were the Pelasgians. And they're known as who in the scriptures? They're known as the Philistines. The Philistines were of the line of Ham. Okay? And even the original Japhites that were in the land, known as the Ionians, were people of color as well. They eventually settled in the land known as Asia Minor, that we call today Turkey. That's where you had the quote-unquote Ionian League. But the Ionians, the ancient Ionians, were people of color. The Japhites were people of color. Now the Macedonians, they were so-called Caucasian, and they eventually came down from the land known back then as Macedonia, known today I believe as Yugoslavia, and they conquered the Greeks. They conquered the indigenous Greeks, and then eventually conquered most of the known world. That was the rise of the quote-unquote Caucasian civilization, which they pretty much took from the original Greeks and then came into Egypt and Kemet and adopted many of the teachings of the people of Kemet, and then moved eastward to try to conquer the Middle East and then try to conquer India. That is where the movement of Alexander came to its end. The point being is this: the original artwork on crafts like this, on vases and pottery, were of people of color. Okay, so don't be confused by this. You can tell even when you look at the hair is very, very wavy and very strong. Like, for example, when we look at this paint over right here, we can see when we do a close-up that the satyr has the features of someone who was aboriginal. You understand? So I just wanted to touch on that very quickly for certain brothers who might be looking at this video and not understand certain components of the history of that region, and also the history of of archaeology. The vast majority of the artifacts that you see in museums are fakes. Okay? It's known as artistic license. Now, brothers, this is the last photo that I wanted to go over. This, of course, is of Hugh Hefner. And the reason why it's pertinent is for a multitude of reasons. Number one, this painting right here was found in Hugh Hefner's home in the Playboy Mansion. And he's depicting himself as Pan. And the females on either side are his nymphs. Now, there's been an effort by certain brothers on the internet or on social media to try to juxtapose how Hugh Hefner was depicted by the mainstream media and the lack of vitriol that was aimed towards him with how the media has come at R. Kelly. I did a video in the aftermath of Hugh Hefner's death called Hugh Hefner, Pupil of Bacchus, in which I stated that Hugh Hefner was not a good person. And this was way before this whole R. Kelly thing, or at least the new version of the R. Kelly thing, broke out. I stated that he was an MK programmer and an MK handler, as is R. Kelly. The point being is this: I think that certain brothers are trying to take some heat off of R. Kelly, as opposed to understanding that there should have been heat on both men, because R. Kelly, once again, is as much acquainted with the concepts of mind control as Hugh Hefner. You know, I won't say as much, because Hugh Hefner was associated with certain intelligence agencies. R. Kelly, I don't think he is, but you never know. The point being is that R. Kelly knows what he's doing when it comes to that world. And speaking of Hugh Hefner, it's really only the tip of the iceberg, the things that we know about Hugh Hefner, because one of the revelations that has recently come out is that there was almost an entire facility bordering on damn near a city underneath the Playboy Mansion. Now, what was going on in that facility underneath the Playboy Mansion, one can only surmise. But in my view, that is where many of his so-called Playboy bunnies got put under the programming. Also, there was a tunnel system that was found where there were certain tunnels that were leading to the homes of affluent actors in Hollywood. So there were tunnels leading from the Playboy Mansion to the homes of certain affluent actors in Hollywood, like Jack Nicholson, Kirk Douglas, Warren Beatty, James Caan, etc. And we already know about Hugh Hefner's friendship, quote unquote, with people like Bill Cosby, Dick Gregory, and Muhammad Ali. So, you know, just to wrap this up in a nice little bow, there are many people who understand the concept of the sex slave, and they never had a problem with it before. So if you're going to castigate one, castigate everybody. Okay? If you're going to castigate R. Kelly, castigate everybody. I'm not going to say if you went light on Hugh Hefner, go light on R. Kelly. No, if you're going to castigate one, castigate all, because they're all a part of the same insidious agenda. So peace.